Welcome to Configure It Done, the podcast where SAP leaders share real insights, proven strategies, and stories from frontlines of major SAP transformations. Get inspired, get informed, let's get it done.
Welcome back to the Configure It Done podcast. Seb, you're back. You brought another fantastic guest. Now, before you introduce Geoff, we've had some brilliant guests on recently, and they've all been focused around S4, and we've created a content page called S4 Do's and Don'ts, and we can share the link afterwards for any manager out there that wants access. And that S4 Do's and Don'ts page just contains snippets of and nuggets of gold of 30-second videos, whether it be around data or change or anything to do with S4. But Seb, you had an idea to bring on a guest, not to focus just on S4, but on SuccessFactors. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I think, especially because we've done a decent amount now and extensive a bit of work on the podcast with regarding to S4. It'd be good to get an insight now into what makes SuccessFactors projects tick, and especially around that HRS transformation piece now as well, because we're seeing so many of our customers diving into those types of projects. So I thought, who else would be best to come along than Geoff himself? And I think especially given the types of programs and projects that Geoff's done, both on an S4 perspective, but also on payroll and SuccessFactors, he'd be a good person to bring along. So welcome, Geoff.
Great. Thanks, Seb. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, for those of you that don't know Geoff, I'm going to let you do your own intro. Obviously, we know you very, very well, but can you give us a bit of a background on yourself and how you got into SuccessFactors as well?
Sure thing. So Geoff Race, so 25 plus years in the enterprise transformation space. That's across tech, people, process. I've held many a different role in those 25 years. Head of IT for APAC and so forth for global organizations. Driving digital strategy, program manager type roles as well. So responsible for various programs, 45 plus million sort of thing. So really getting into the low level designs and details is where I really enjoy to play. Complexities, ensuring that the business understand those complexities from an IT perspective and what it means for them. Worked across the manufacturing sector, public, energy sectors as well. Retail is a big focus as well. And really over the last 10 years, we've probably seen a shift from that more on-prem side of deployments to more those cloud-based, as you said before, S4HANA, and now SuccessFactors as well, really starting to ramp up with the cloud-based activities. So that's a little bit of background on myself, but from an introduction of where I got into with SuccessFactors.
Yeah, tell us more. SuccessFactors.
It was an interesting story, that one, because I was working for one of the larger consulting companies, and they said to me, Geoff, look, we've got this customer, just got a couple of problems. Maybe you can go down, structure their morning meetings. They need someone to put some processes in place. Maybe do some delivery as well for them would be a good outcome. I said, yeah, sure. How hard can it be? And so I walked in, and the first morning they had a full meeting. I thought, okay, great. Everyone's in there, and it was boardroom size meeting room. And we started going around the room and started to introduce everyone. We had the traditional payroll people, the payroll manager, IT, implementation partners. But as we were going around, we started to see, okay, well, there's a CIO, there's the head of people and culture, okay, there's the deputy secretary for the State Department. Okay, now we've got some psychologists being introduced as well, just to measure everyone's health and well-being. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, this is a little bit more than what we anticipated. So. But yeah, it was that was a remediation project. So that was a bit of a baptism of fire. So the department had gone live 6 months prior, and they were facing a number of different challenges and so forth. So we really had to roll the sleeves up, chunk it down, start to ensure you had those little incremental wins along the way, prioritization. The simple things, right? So simplifying the end users, the employees' payroll payslip, so they could actually understand it and start to understand what they were being paid. So simple things like that was a real eye opener for me. And yeah, as I say, it was the baptism of fire for SuccessFactors.
So you literally thought you were going into like a small project just to help out with a few meetings, and then all of a sudden you're greeted with, that large crew of people here.
Yeah, let's just say the sell to me wasn't anywhere near the mark. So, but that's traditional sales, though, right? So they always like to ham it up a bit.
Yeah, I bet that's the beauty of a consultancy, though. You get exposed to different projects at any time.
Yeah, that's right. And it's bringing those fundamentals to the project, right? So chunk it down. What is important for the customer? What are their priorities? What are their challenges? I mean, yes, it is a SuccessFactors implementation, but it can be across any type of technology place implementation, right? So as long as you've got those fundamentals in place, then really you should be able to start to challenge and work with those obstacles.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I think it's especially funny, right, when you're looking at SuccessFactors projects and in general HRS transformations, you never think that they're going to be as big as they are, especially in that room full of different people as well. You start kind of realizing how big some projects can be. And that probably kind of brings me to my question, Geoff. When you walk into a new client, similar to obviously what happened there, how do you typically define what success looks like for their SuccessFactors journey?
Yeah, good question, Seb. So really, if you take it from the start, like what are those business goals? What are those HR goals? Because we're talking SuccessFactors, right? So what are those problems that they're trying to set out to solve? What have they put into their business case? And once you start to understand with them, could be things like payroll remediation, could be talent attraction, could be career development, could be a legacy migration due to support rolling off. So what are those fundamental drivers for the organization to be undertaking this implementation? So once you start to frame them, then you're going to get some key drivers that you boil those points down. So when you're talking payroll remediation, then you've got to do from compliance perspective, talent attraction. Okay, well, is it specifically the Gen Z? What sort of gen is it that you're after to ensure that you're actually starting to target for those right goals and so forth? And then once you start to define them, you're going to translate them into your KPIs. So things around time to hire, onboarding, time to onboard. Is it your payroll accuracy and so forth? So going back to those big driving blocks, what are those KPIs that you're going to boil down and measure to ensure that you've got those levels of success that you can report back up to the executive teams and so forth? Now, that said, you can never go away from end user feedback as well. So you've got your KPIs, you've got your metrics, you've got the dashboarding that you're going to present at the board, but you really need to have that open communication channel as well to your HR team, to your payroll team, to the people who are the new hires through the new processes and so forth. And that way you're getting more context to what is actually going on within the whole ecosystem of what you've just implemented as well. So KPIs, metrics, yes, absolutely you need them, but you've got to have that front-facing open communication path with your wider business units to really ensure that you are going to be on that success and you are not nailing just those criterias, but actually all those other little intricacies that you may have missed or glanced over.
Excellent.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you see that a lot of times when you're looking at different programs and how they're set up, and obviously there's a lot of different kind of parts to play. It's typically a kind of well-oiled machine, but if you don't have one side talking to the other, then it typically becomes a big issue.
100%, absolutely.
Geoff, I've got a question. I know we met before. I think it was last week. We met, and when you were talking about the way you address a program, I think we defined like 6 different building blocks. It was almost like your project management philosophy. And for any project managers or program managers listening, if you could define what those 6 points were, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, not a problem. So one of the most fundamental building blocks to successful implementations is going to be starting off with your stakeholder and your business engagement. Whilst SuccessFactors, yes, it's a great solution. It's a technology solution. you need the business people in there owning the solution and driving the technology outcomes. Tech is only part of the implementation. So it's that early buy-in with your executives, with your stakeholders. It's establishing those communication paths, those channels and so forth. That include escalation paths. You've got to build those relationships, that rapport with those different players in the business and open up all those channels. Now, that said, the project as well, or the program as such, you've got to earn their respect. So you can't just say, well, I need you and I need you and I need you and just work with us. No, you've actually got to, yes, you need that, but you've actually got to play back and ensure that you're earning the trust and the respect with all of those executives and those stakeholders and the business engagement as well.
Have you got any tips on that, Geoff, on how to gain trust early in a program?
Just be transparent as possible. So every project is going to have challenges. Every single project, whether it be time, budget, resourcing, constraints, you name it. So the more open and transparent and honest that you are with your stakeholders will go a long way, because then they're not going to get any shocks or surprises or any curveballs coming at them. Because if there's one thing an executive is going to hate, understandably so, it's not knowing until you sit down and say, oh, hey, hang on, we've got a big problem. You've got to be honest and transparent.
So if I had to summarize that, building block number one would be getting buy-in, yeah?
100%. So if we go to number 2, would be your requirements capture, your traceability. So this one, you really need to take your time and understand what those to-be business processes are within the SuccessFactors solution. So if that requires you to build some process architecture, those to-be business processes, do some modeling as well, understanding where the gaps are in the solution. So SuccessFactors is not going to do everything for you. You're not just going to pick up your business and put it into SuccessFactors. You will have challenges that you will need to work within from a customization perspective versus an integrations and so forth. So where are those gaps and how do you define them will go a long way to building success as well. Now, when you're defining all of these requirements, and as I said before, from a traceability, you want to be building out your traceability matrix. So that is key, not just from a requirements gathering, but if you start to document this requirement, and this is how it's going to flow through into the technology solution, this is what it's going to mean from a business process. What it's going to mean from a training perspective. It's going to mean from a testing perspective. So all of a sudden, for this one requirement, you can now start to map out all that journey of activities within your future state programs of work as well, of the program. And that is also going to be your Bible once you do go live to say, okay, well, I've got this requirement back here, and we're really needing to ensure that if we do change this one process, it's going to affect all these other parts. So really you need to take your time, ensure you've got all your requirements, get the right business people in there, ensuring they understand what the to-be solution is going to be, because that is how they're going to be working in the future. So super critical is getting that documented accurately.
And would you do that yourself as a PM or have support doing that?
Oh, through your business analysts. You might have a number of different business analysts. You might have a specific payroll business analyst to get those requirements. You might have a recruitment business analyst, an EC, ECP, obviously depending on budgets and so forth as well, which also impacts your timelines and so on. But ideally, you want to be capturing them through those through your business.
Sure. So as a PM, you're just bringing it all together, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Guiding, ensuring that those key fundamental governance documents and so forth from your traceability matrix is being followed, is being documented and carried out, and we can play that back with the business to ensure that they are signing those to-be processes off and making sure that is all captured and succinctly articulated back to them.
Sure. Okay. So what's the third one?
Third one is data. So data transformation, data migration. Every program needs to have it and needs to have it locked down, rock solid. So
that was a big sigh there, Geoff.
Well, these are all critical, right? But if you do your data right, you're a long way to being successful. Okay, so as you'll know, the way your legacy payroll system is accruing data, calculating the accruals and so forth is probably going to be different or might be different to how SuccessFactors is. Is it accruing on a daily basis? Is it a weekly basis? There's different processes of how, and that then needs to be transformed. So you've got to pick that legacy data up. You've got to transform that data and move it and migrate it into the SuccessFactors solution. So really, and that's the end user's data, right? So if I'm an employee and I've got 38 days of leave on my legacy system, I want to see that 38 days is not gone down to 36 days or 32 days. It's gone up to 39. Okay, I'm all right with that. But that's going to have another effect. You've got to make sure the budget and the sign off of all the additional pay and leave and so forth is coming through. But that's one critical factor, that everyone who goes through a migration, if I'm an employee, the first thing I do when I log onto the system, I'm checking my balances. I'm checking to make sure I haven't been shortchanged whatsoever. Even if I trust you dearly, I'm still logging on to make sure I've still got all my entitlements. So really, look, the data migration is one thing, ensuring that the business are across all of the transformation logic and ensuring that they are signing off all of that logic to say, yes, I agree with Geoff's balance now coming from 38 to 38.5, because that is the calculation and the logic that we've had to do to increase his leave balances and so forth. So it is fundamental that your data is as accurate as it can be.
Excellent. So we've got getting buy-in, we've got the requirement gathering stage, and then obviously the data. And what's the fourth one? Test
execution. So planning is key for your test execution. So we just spoke about data. You need to ensure that data migration activity that you're carrying out and transforming is going to be set up in time for you to commence your test execution.
Yeah.
And then where are you committing, or where are you completing, I should say, your test execution? So it might be SIT versus user acceptance testing and so forth. So your environment landscape needs to be aware of what that path coming through is. So the planning is key for all test execution across that, even to the point where you've got, sure, from an SIT perspective, you're going to be fine because you've got a lot of knowledge in the people. But when it comes to UAT, that's your business doing your execution. Where's their training? Have they seen SuccessFactors before? Have they run a pay in SuccessFactors? Probably not. So that whole training and user awareness of how they're going to do their business processes that you mapped out in the architecture, you need to ensure that they are up to speed and they know that process that they're going to execute in an environment to get the user acceptance testing results. So that is paramount. You're going to have, with SuccessFactors, you're going to have biannual releases. So they will drop into your program of work without a doubt. There's no avoiding them. And once you go live as well, you need that process set up for post go live, for managing and maintaining your test execution for all those production releases that are going to come into your system, whether you like them or not. There are mandatory releases that will come in, and you'll need to be well versed and well prepped, not just from a project perspective, but also in that post-production, post-project go live to deliver the execution.
So I suppose these building blocks that you mentioned here, these can really be applied to any project, not just SuccessFactors. But yeah, I like the way you're just breaking it down in each step. But yeah, what's 5 and 6? What are the last ones to round it off?
All right, so number 5, I'd say, is change management, possibly the most critical element of any project. Payroll affects every single employee. So as I said in that first intro, when I was into my baptism of fire, people couldn't understand the pay slips. And if your employee cannot understand the pay slip or understand how to transact in the system, how to use the system to get to apply for leave or sick leave or annual leave, whatever it is, it's going to be frustrating for them, and they're going to raise support tickets. That's going to overwhelm your support desk. You're going to have a whole lot of hypercare defects and so forth. So that whole transition through to go live, all those different activities, the steps and the cutover approach of when the business are doing certain tasks, because there will be certain cutoff activities, all needs to be clearly articulated, defined, and executed against to ensure that your whole business is aware of what that change process and how it affects them. So super important, super critical to deliver a successful change program as well.
Geoff, I remember being at an event before, just on change. It was a change management event, and I remember there was this senior program manager, one of the best I've seen in the market. But he stood up in the middle of that event and he said, "If your program needs change, it's failed already." And what he meant by that, and I'd love to get your views. I think what he meant by that was change should be driven by the business. You shouldn't need a change manager. But yeah, what's your views on that?
100%. Like the best change programs or the best delivery of change management comes from within an organization because they understand the business process. They understand how your business is working, and that is fundamental in any program whatsoever. If your business, you can bring contractors, consultants in and so forth, and they'll do a good job, but you've got to embed them and intertwine them with your key business leads because they are the ones that are ultimately going to own the solution at the end of the day. And having them embedded in your program right from the start drives them much more successful because they've got that intimate business knowledge of how that organization is running.
Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, number 6.
Number 6 is the project team and the culture within the project team. So, you're bringing everyone in, you're going to bring business, you're going to bring contractors in, you'll have external vendors coming in and so forth, but it's ensuring that culture and that winning mindset is at play. And that's a key role of the program project manager, right? So ensure everyone's dialed in to making sure they're in it for the right reasons to deliver a successful outcome. From an internal perspective, it means that those business internal, it means giving those best resources you can possibly give.
Mm-hmm.
From an external partnering perspective as well, it's getting those implementation partners that really see you as a true partner and you see them as a true partner, not as a journey on paper just to do an implementation. They want to see your successful outcomes as well as theirs because everyone's in business to deliver and make money and make profit. But at the end of the day, you need to be aligned and ensure that everyone is on the same path and the same journey to be that right success. It's about having those people and those mindsets in there. And if you can go a long way, because you can have a lot of different people, then you'll be very successful.
Thanks, Geoff. I think the building blocks is quite interesting, right? Because as Jay mentioned, it can be applied to a lot of different programs. And obviously, you've been in the S4 seat. You've obviously been in the SuccessFactors seat as well. One thing that I've seen a lot is when these transformation programs happen, one of the biggest things and one of the biggest issues that some clients face is not having that HRS transformation knowledge. So they'll have people that have, the SAP knowledge, but not really understand how a transformation happens. And I think obviously it's really important to have those six building blocks completely nailed down to ensure that you have a successful transformation. Obviously, change being a big one of that. Now, when you're looking at these types of programs, and this is one of the things that I kind of really wanted to understand as well, what does a realistic timeline look like? Because obviously you have different complexities with different programs, different payroll functions, there's different EBAs, you can have concurrent employment, there's a whole host of different areas. Where do you typically see kind of quick wins versus the work that takes longer than expected?
Yeah, great question, Seb. And I wish I had a perfect, succinct answer to that one because unfortunately, the answer I'm going to give is that, look, there's no one size fits all. It's really, as you said, it comes down to a range of different deliverables, right? So how big is your organization? What is the size and complexity of your data and so forth that we just talked about? Complex integrations, how much automation do you want to put in place? You're talking remediation, compliance type projects as well, skills, budgets, and so forth as well. They're all going to have an impact or an outline, an influence, I should say, on what that project timeline is going to look like. That said, where I do see a lot of the quick wins is probably in your approach to the actual implementation. And I'm always an advocate for the likes of a phased delivery. So not this big bang deployment approach, but chunking it down into sizable chunks that you can actually phase in your implementation. So one of our recent programs of work, what we set about was delivering a lot of the core foundation building blocks as well for the organization. So setting up all your SuccessFactors modules from the recruitment to onboarding to Employee Central to your success and so forth, as well as your payroll integrations and so forth, but not extending it out to all those sexy type of onboarding web portals and so forth to get those Gen Z people locked in and involved, let alone your time and attendance, which are different awards and so forth.
Yeah.
It's just building those core building blocks that you can pick up that support group of users and awards and so forth, and put them on your platform first and foremost. Get the onboarding process bedded down, get the payroll bedded down. And whilst you're doing that, you've got these other phases and deliverables coming at a later point in time, but you're actually getting some wins up front by getting your execs, getting your stakeholders on board, migrating their leave budgets, everything accurately and so forth. And it's giving you more time to test out and deliver the more complex integrations, time and attendance solutions, different awards that got a lot more complexities and so forth. So it's pushing those heavier parts to the back of your project to ensure that you can actually get those wins, get everything on board, and push through for those later releases as well with a lot more confidence, rather than going with that big bang approach to delivery, which is going to stress everyone out.
I suppose if you're getting quick wins, you're getting buy-in from the business straight away, and I suppose the larger pieces would be easier at the end. Well,
more complexity requires more testing and so forth. But yeah, I think you can take a lot of confidence out of building your fundamentals right. So then once you've got all your integrations working and everything's talking to each other and people can access the system, training materials gone well, change has gone well, data migration's gone well, then you can start to chunk it down and look at the other types, because your processes are working. Your data migration process is well defined, it's well rehearsed. And now let's take on that bigger chunk of those more complex type of awards and those employees to bring them in using our same methodology that we've done for those upfront fundamental building blocks.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, Geoff, you've gone through a lot there, a lot of insights for the listeners, which is great. One question I had before we wrap up, if I was a program manager and I was starting a SuccessFactors program like today, what's your one key bit of advice you would give them?
Make sure you get the best business people into that program of work. Okay, so they're the business people that the business actually can't afford to pull out of their business. So it's your payroll manager, it's your recruitment head of recruitment and so forth. Making sure that you've got the right skills involved, and if they can be backfilled and freed up for the project, that is going to give you the best outcome possible, because these are the people who have probably the authority to make the changes in your program. They're going to be the ones with the deep process knowledge that can also influence change and drive why it is that you're going down that path. Like, ultimately, the sooner you get them involved, the better off you will be, because they're going to own the solution once the whole project and program has moved on. So they're the ones living and breathing it. So it goes back to the start of what I said before, like SuccessFactors is not a tech project. It's a business transformation, and you really need to ensure that you've got that transformation, you've got that business knowledge in your transformation of your business. And if you can get that, then they'll give you that support and guidance to ensure that you can technically deliver what is required.
Excellent. Okay, good stuff. Well, Geoff, thank you very much for coming on today and sharing those insights. Seb and I were speaking before this, and we know that you've got a very, very good network in the HCM space. And I think he asked you the question, like, who would you recommend to come onto the podcast so the listeners can learn from them? But I don't know if you had anyone in mind.
So if you depends where you want to go, but if you want to dive down to different streams of some of those different data migration versus testing and so forth, then there are some very good people. people like Vanessa Martin from a test execution perspective, but then you can take up people like Gary Newton as well from that project delivery. So yeah, so there's a lot of different people out there with different perspectives and a lot more lower level insight to give as well.
Excellent. Well, Geoff, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Yeah, cheers, Geoff.
For those of you who didn't know Geoff, obviously, there you go. That's a really good insight into his project management philosophy and his 6 building blocks. But yeah, Geoff, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate your time as well, Jay and Seb. Thanks for having me.